Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 334 of WordPress Weekly for Wednesday, October 17th, 2018. I'm your host, Jeff Chandler, joined by Jay Tripp.
Hello. Hello. Hi.
Who is not tripping.
Not, of course. Oh my goodness, no. Not. That's. I'm right out of the gate uncomfortable. It's like a new record.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely. I didn't know that was something to be worried about on the show. But just to be clear, in this show and every show, I have not actually been tripping. Just to be clear.
This is true.
Thank you for.
My bad. I did not mean to put your career at risk on this show.
And if I am in the future, it's probably not on purpose. I've probably been drugged, and someone should probably call someone to help me.
So we were.
On that note.
Yeah, so we were scheduled to have Andrew Roberts on the show today. He's the CEO of Tiny, formerly of eFox, and Tiny is the company behind Tiny MCE. Unfortunately, he's in Germany for a conference, and he's feeling a little under the weather. So we have rescheduled him. I apologize if you're looking forward to hearing.
I was looking
with
him
him
talking to him, but
because there's a lot of stuff I'd really like to talk to him about. Pretty much,
me too.
About the journey of Tiny, the Tiny MCE library, and sort of its relationship with WordPress, and how the two have had a symbiotic relationship where they've benefited each other over the years. And I think it'd be cool to kind of dive into that. But he won't be on the show today. I'm going to try and get him on before the end of October, maybe on our spooky Halloween episode of WordPress Weekly. So that leaves plenty of time, John, for you and I to discuss things that are going on in the WordPress community.
I like shows when it's just you and I shooting the breeze, because we talk pretty real about how we feel about some stuff going on. I think there's a lot going on this week that we can probably touch on. So I'm excited to just hang out with you this week too.
So we'll get to some of the news stories in a little bit. But before we get to that, we've hinted on previous episodes of the show. We're going to talk about this, so we can talk about it today. But the hot word of the week or the past 2 weeks has been accessibility.
It sure has. And
it sort of started back earlier this month when the WordPress accessibility team rep, who was seen by many people as a lead but wasn't officially a lead, was Rian Ritveld. I hope I got it somewhat correct. But she actually published a post where she says that she has resigned from being a rep for the accessibility team due to what she describes as political complications and problems with working on Gutenberg accessibility. And in her post, she says that within the last year, especially the last few weeks, have been too politically complicated for her. And she says that it's better for someone else to take the lead now. And if you read her post, it sort of outlines the challenges that both her and the accessibility team have encountered and working with Gutenberg without having a skilled React developer on their team. Their contributions have primarily been limited to testing and reporting issues. And she says that team members experienced frustration when they tested and improved functionality, but saw it changed at a later stage, breaking accessibility requirements again. She also cited the lack of commitment to keyboard testing new features before implementation. Now, she will continue to peek her head in now and then. She's still going to be an active contributor to the accessibility team. But one of the things she says is that she will still join the accessibility table if asked on contributor days, but maybe she'll just go to a museum instead. And there's a lot that goes into it, and this is sort of put accessibility in the spotlight, and a lot of accessibility advocates have seen this as pretty much as like, oh no, how could this be? Or does WordPress not care about accessibility? Gutenberg should be 100% accessible out of the box. And there have been many issues and GitHub discussions and core Slack channel discussions about Gutenberg's current accessibility, to the point where a gentleman by the name of Tofu Matt. That's his sort of Slack name. I don't know his actual name, but he's actually sort of taken on the lead of accessibility as an automatic employee. So he's going around, he's having discussions. He actually suggested doing like an audit, and actually it's a accessibility audit of Gutenberg and some of the default blocks. And he was working with Automatic to fund this accessibility audit. It wouldn't be performed by Automatic, could be performed by a third party to sort of get an idea of how accessible and inaccessible Gutenberg is. And it would kind of highlight that an audit like that would kind of highlight how inaccessible or accessible it is compared to the classic editor as well. But we just recently found out that that audit has been postponed because it will not affect the release timing of WordPress 5.0, and 5.0 is kind of is going ahead. But there's a lot. There's so much around the accessibility right now that we can dive into. But I think one of the things I want to talk about is when Rian notes that the challenges that the accessibility team has had. So Gutenberg has been in development for nearly 2 years. It's been a rapid stage of development, and I can only imagine the frustration like a team like the accessibility team has had. Testing out various versions, trying to keep up with that pace, and not even having a skilled React developer on their team,
right.
You know, to fix something, and then a week later, here's a new version of Gutenberg, and now the thing that they fixed or they tested that they spent all this time on is broken again. So there's a lot of frustration there, and trying to keep up with a fast-paced development on a certain project, trying to keep it accessible.
Yeah, it's tough. Like there's some things with like, I think all that we can do is kind of talk about the facts, because there's a lot that we can speculate about. Like but all that we can talk about is her post, and then what we see happen on GitHub and in the core development chats in Slack. And
okay, his name is Matt McPherson, right?
Matt McPherson, that's right. Okay. And so this is not the first time in the history of WordPress that someone has taken the lead on something and has found that their ability to influence the direction of the thing that they care about isn't what they thought it was. And John O'Nolan with some design stuff back in the day, who eventually just said, "I'm out and I'm going to start my own CMS," and founded Ghost. So it's a bummer when something that you care about and have invested a lot of time and effort into isn't working out the way that you believe it should. And I would say, like, kind of hats off to someone who's willing to just pull the cord and bail on something instead of just continuing to work towards something that is frustrating them. Like, it's the healthy thing to do is to leave a relationship that you're not finding joy in. But it is, I think it is a hit to the accessibility team. It's a hit for morale. It is indicative of the frustrations that it seems like a lot of people have with the Gutenberg development process so far. The thing that I think makes it tough, specifically for folks that are accessibility minded, is that React as a framework is not known for its accessibility in general anyways. And so using it was, for Gutenberg, this was a known concern from the beginning. And just because it's a known concern also doesn't mean that developers are going to prioritize it, unfortunately. And speaking, I guess, somewhat from experience, is that accessibility does tend to be one of the last things that does get done, not because it isn't important, but because it is so important that it is a moving target while the development process is happening. And arguably, and maybe I'll my handoff back to you is that when projects like Gutenberg are changing quickly, and we're kind of mixing the design with the development at the same time. Like everyone is kind of designing live. There's not a lot of conceptual things that are happening in the design. The design is kind of actively part of the development process, that the things will break all the time, which is part of the thing that I had tweeted previously, is that calling Gutenberg 4.0 right now is kind of, it's kind of misleading, because 1.0 assumes that accessibility has settled, or translations have settled, or APIs have settled, but they've been reinvented over and over and over again and still are today. And so it is unusual for something at a 4.0 mature release to break accessibility. It is not unusual for something at a 0.4 to break accessibility over and over again until it is ready to go at like a 1.0 release. And so the reason that is because, and it's not unusual in WordPress history, widgets, sidebars, even the customizer wasn't 100% hugely super accessible out of the gate, but it was bolted on over time. It's not because it's not important. It's because it's so important that you don't want to do it wrong the first time. You want to make sure you do it adequately the next time. And so I don't know if that
generally speaking of accessibility, and this is just from my perspective, but within the past couple of years, especially within the last two, I've seen accessibility as something that's been a growing concern in the WordPress community. And I've seen, if you look at like Morten Rand Hendrickson, Rachel Cherry, and Deborah from the Metro Detroit WordPress community, there are some very, very vocal accessibility advocates that have done a great job on bringing WordPress accessibility to the forefront, making it a priority instead of one of the last things you put into the project. And I know one of the things they've said all the time is that accessibility should be, let's design it to be accessible from the start, and then you're not having to bolt it on at the end, which is something that's probably pretty difficult to do for Gutenberg, with React, and at the base, the foundation of Gutenberg not being known for accessibility anyways. Right. So there's that, but there's just been a lot more awareness around accessibility within the past 2 years. I think that's a great thing for the project.
So I had forgotten that Widgets has like a completely separate interface for accessibility mode. Like there's a box that you check, or like a button that you click, that swaps the Widgets UI to a completely different interface, like specifically for accessibility for the folks that don't have the dexterity to handle the drag and drop and those kind of things. That it's entirely possible that Gutenberg would just have a completely different high contrast, muted, less complicated interface, more classic editor for an accessibility style. But the not having the sort of official endorsement of being the accessibility lead is kind of, it's like it's a confidence killer. It's you kind of ask yourself, like, what more do you need to do to earn the title? Not that the title is important, but then you realize that it is sort of within someone's power to just appoint a lead, and you realize that they didn't appoint you. It's politically, she's absolutely right. I feel like it feels like a lot of bureaucracy that isn't fun to navigate, and it complicates the entire problem solving and contributing to WordPress process when you sort of, it is obvious to you that you're not the person that someone wants to do that job, and someone with a wave of a wand can assign somebody to it. And I think that it's interesting to see how the community has reacted to that decision on GitHub. It has not been received hugely positively. There's specifically.
I mean, the core devs have responded. I mean, some of the core devs at one point, it looked like they were saying or suggesting that accessibility now has become something you could bang the project with and try and, prevent it from being released or to delay the project, which I don't think is the case. And then you also have, I know Gary Pinto, one of the lead, he's on a lead developer for Gutenberg. He's leading the release, and he actually commented on the ticket and sort of kind of re-emphasized that, they are taking accessibility. It is important to the project that Gutenberg should be as accessible as it can be, provide an accessible experience by default. However, he does note that a professional accessibility audit has never been a requirement for any feature to be merged in WordPress's history. And he would like to see something like that happen, but writing that a lack of an audit is irresponsible, embarrassing, and dangerous, which many accessibility advocates have said because of the response based on not wanting to postponing this accessibility audit. He says this is the kind of hyperbole that gets in the way of constructive dialogue.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people talking about this.
I love Gary, but I don't agree. I think it's I think it is important, and it is going backwards on a major feature, and it is embarrassing, I think, to have a reputation for being inclusive and accessible to all people, and then to go, yeah, not this time right now, though. We'll get there, but to unplug it and then say, well, there's a classic editor. If that's it really feels dismissive in a way that I don't think that people expect for it or intend for it to. And the thing that I think I bothers me the most about all of it is accessibility is something that WordPress wears as a badge of honor, and we're stripping ourselves of that badge on purpose, and it doesn't seem like the right thing to do. And I think the community is reacting to that and saying, hey, this isn't the right thing to do. And those opinions and that communication is mostly just being silenced or muted on GitHub or ignored or shut down and replaced by the 5.0 timeline of getting this out before WordCamp US this year. Like it seems pretty obvious that that's what's happening, and folks are calling it what it is, and then are being dismissed for calling it what it is. So, and this nobody like. So I've been watching a lot of Norm Macdonald, right? Because I think that he's really funny, and I'm happy to see him have success. But he's said something a long time ago that I think is the kind of accurate for something like this, is that nobody likes someone smarter than them. No one likes someone who says, I told you so. And a lot of the accessibility folks are saying, we told you so. This was a problem a long time ago. This has always been a problem. And they're telling everyone, hey, why aren't you listening to us? We know this is a problem. This is a problem for us, and you are not listening to us. And the problem with that conversation is that no one wants to hear that. And it is easy to say, thank you, but we're going to keep doing what we're doing. And that's a bad deal. That's why Norm Macdonald plays the dumb guy on purpose. He says, he's a comedian who just pretends to be silly and doofy and stupid because it makes people comfortable and brings everyone back down to like a level, normal playing field, brings everyone's emotions down. It makes it fun. And that's what I think has been lost here. It's not fun. Working on the accessibility stuff in Gutenberg has not been rewarding or fun for people. And hopefully from now until WordPress 5.0 ships, I hope that Gary and Matt together find a way to rally everyone who's passionate about accessibility and focus on making this rewarding and fun for everyone. Because if it's not, then it's gonna be a pretty polarizing experience, I think, from now until November or December.
So I haven't seen too much in the way of official word or opinions from Matt Mullenweg on much of this stuff. It's been from lead developers and other core team leads that are involved in this. But I think maybe some of the accessibility advocates are advocating for 100%, accessibility within Gutenberg upon its release. And if it's not, I think some of them feel like that some of those accessibility things are a trade-off, that we'll manage with those as long as we can get the project released, and we'll fix them at a later date. And upon thinking of that, and sort of looking at Matt McPherson's some of his responses on some of the accessibility issues, it reminded me of a quote I read back in 2017, last year. Matt Mullenweg appeared on the Applied Filters podcast, and he had said, quote, "We, for often very good reasons, do things like say WordPress is WCAG compliant and no new code should come in that is not. That's a trade-off, and that's a trade-off that we've enshrined. We should readdress it if we think that trade-off, whether for a particular feature or a particular user experience or a particular benefit, is worth it," end quote. And I think that kind of goes into sort of maybe the mindset of the project lead mindset of, okay, we're not 100%, accessible maybe right out of the gate, but that's perhaps maybe a trade-off, and we'll get to that later. But we're gonna push out the project. And I think it'd be interesting if after WordPress 5.0 is released, if we ever get a chance to have Matt back on the show, to ask him what trade-offs, if any, did he consider, whether it's features, a user experience that could have potentially delayed Gutenberg, but decided to go through with them anyways.
Well, you mentioned that you haven't seen Matt, and I would add to that I don't know that I've seen much from like the rest of the WordPress lead development team. I know Gary is active, but I don't know that anyone else who has been previously announced as a lead developer for the WordPress project has really chimed in on this issue a whole heck of a lot, or and on anything in general in a long time. So I know John Blackburn and others have talked about this WordPress releases kind of as a rudderless ship for a while without a lot of direction. And maybe that's on purpose. Maybe this is the release where everyone takes their hands off the wheel and sees where the seas take them. But now would seem like the time where you would want, someone else in addition to Gary saying like, "Hey, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. This is how we're going to do it. And this is our responsibility as lead developers to step forward and guide this." But I haven't seen that. In addition to Matt, there are a lot of other folks, and so I'm wondering what they're up to. Where it's like, you kind of got superheroes that aren't responding to the call. You got the bat signals out that there's some problems, but Batman's not responding. So what do you do with that?
Now, I will say that there have been coding standards for WordPress that were passed either a year or two ago that says all new or updated code released on WordPress must conform with the WCAG 2.0 guidelines at level AA. These basic guidelines are intended for easy reference during development, and that's what new code is supposed to be. So hopefully Gutenberg is at the very least conforms with those requirements, or it's not even... Well, it's not even conforming to WordPress coding standards.
There is that problem also. But the one thing that I can get with from Rian's point of view, and like in my own personal reflecting on how I work best and everything, is that when it gets real political and it gets argumentative, I really don't have a good time. I would prefer to not collaborate with people that want to fight about things. In addition to something like accessibility inherently does kind of slow things down. It has to. You have to stop and test the things that have been built. That is intentionally stopping the very quick progress that Gutenberg has had so far. And I think to everyone else that is used to working quickly, they want to keep going. They want to go, go, go. And the accessibility team needs everyone to stop for a little bit so that they can do their jobs. And so what you have are two separate teams with two separate goals that need two separate environments to get their jobs done. It is it's not, that requires collaboration, coordination, and if the two teams, or if they're not seeing eye to eye, or they're not stepping out of each other's way, or if the accessibility team has never been able to get their tasks accomplished, they're going to be frustrated. So I think that the thing that should happen is to outline from the accessibility team what it is that they need everyone else to do. And the developers that have been cranking away on Gutenberg need to let the accessibility team know when it's time. They have a Gutenberg freeze. When's the feature freeze going to be? When is it actually going to stop changing so that the accessibility team can do their jobs? Until that happens, it's going to be tense, I think, for a while. It's like any other build. You can't put a roof on the house until the walls are up. You can't put the walls up until the basement's in. You gotta take this thing one step at a time. And the accessibility team has been asking for their time, and it hasn't been given to them. And so hopefully before 5.0 happens, they get their time.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so much involved, not just the accessibility of the code, but all of the stuff that goes around it in an open source project. I know that the accessibility team will now be having meetings, or at least be discussing nominating somebody to take a lead if they're able to have a lead that represents the team. And they're going to, and if that works out, they're going to work on a system where, similar to like the theme review team, they nominate a lead and that person has that position for 6 months to a year. So have the lead position be rotating so you don't have somebody getting burnt out, because when you're in that lead role and you're representing the team and you're trying to do what Rian did and just come up against walls, you can't do what you want to do all the time, or you keep encountering roadblocks. I think burnout happens a lot more quickly than the normal.
So the one solution that I wish we had, and this is maybe speaks to the technical listeners that are listening and imagining why this is even a problem in the first place, is I really like how WordPress translations work and are so completely separate from the rest of what's happening. And one of the things that makes accessibility difficult is it literally is touching the code, where translations they have nothing to do really with, you are able to translate WordPress or plugins into any language you want without having anything to do with the WordPress code base, period. You are abstracted from all of those problems, and all you need to know is the one version of strings, and you make it to be your preferred language. It would be really nice if there was a bona fide accessibility abstraction for all of this that allowed for the accessibility team to tag things correctly, add the attributes that they need, remove them, tune them, rename them, replace them on all the objects and elements that they want, without needing to really deeply integrate themselves into the rest of the development process, not just for Gutenberg, but plugins and everything else too. Like this is like, if there was a piece of technology that, like the POMOs and the get text API that WordPress has, if there was just some other way to abstract the accessibility part of this out of Core and Gutenberg, but to make it a thing that was, we have GlotPress for translations. We kind of need accessibility press. We need some other way to pull those tags out one extra layer so that the accessibility team can work in tandem at their own pace without needing to block or slow anybody else down. It would seem like a better arrangement. I feel like we'd get more done that way, but there is no technical solution for that. We need a brighter, smarter minds to invent something there. I think would be really helpful if there was something in the middle of that.
So I don't know if it's just me, and this is a little bit of inside baseball stuff, but I've been monitoring and looking back through conversations that are taking place in the WordPress core Slack channel, which in some ways is starting to remind me of what some of the discussions were like on the WP Hackers mailing list so many years ago. And it seems like with accessibility and what some things are saying, it's causing tempers to flare.
It is.
Within the core Slack channel, which is something you don't see too often.
Core Slack on GitHub, there's lots of downvotes in lots of places. There were issues getting closed, people being muted.
As Gary said in one ticket, we're all on an emotional roller coaster right now.
It is, yeah. And like, not a lot of people are waiting in line to ride that ride again, I feel like right now. It is a little broken. So, people are figuring it out. And but yeah.
And we've talked about this before. I wonder at the end of it, when 5.0 is out and Gutenberg is merged, who's going to be a victim? Who's going to be a victim of all this, where they were involved with this for such a long period of time, the back and forth, the politicizing, the emotions? Who's going to come out of this a victim? Or do you think it's not going to be that bad for anybody?
Depends. I mean, I think the real victims are users that need accessibility.
I think a lot of people close to the project will be on a sort of mandatory leave of absence for a little while. It
kind of feels like some of the leads have had that a little bit. I mean, I've definitely had a little bit of a leave from BuddyPress to let everyone grow and it into what they want it to be. But yeah, I think no matter what happens, it sounds like the real people that are going to suffer from all of this and experience the worst fallout will be users that expect and need accessible software to publish with WordPress. Lead developers, contributors, we all come and go, but the people that suffer are the users. It's very similar to politics. Politicians will come and go. You get voted in and out. But the people who lose when something goes wrong are citizens and taxpayers. It's the same thing. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully nobody, right? Hopefully everyone hustles and gets this together.
And I was reading an interesting conversation the other day. I think these people were discussing that we have Gutenberg and Core, and is there a way that we can simply use a constant to just disable Gutenberg? And maybe there are hooks, or maybe there are ways that you can disable Gutenberg in the editor. I mean, you could just use the classic editor, but then when you start thinking about it, the editor is the first step of Gutenberg. Then it's the customizer. Then you start redoing bits and pieces of WordPress with Gutenberg, and now you can't just disable Gutenberg anymore. And I thought that was sort of interesting to think about that. That if you really want to disable Gutenberg, okay, but now you're disabling a lot of other parts of WordPress that require Gutenberg.
Yep, and on a couple of
Gutenberg.
On a couple of other different issues on GitHub, since we had Shredder on the show last week, he's been commenting and chiming in on a bunch of issues that I had commented on with like similar thoughts about Gutenberg just lacking pretty basic editor functionality, like copying and pasting things is weird, and cross-block stuff is weird, and some of the things that Shredder had mentioned is that he feels like these are things that don't even warrant, like you shouldn't even have to say that this is a problem because it's so simple and obvious of a thing that every text box on a computer has had since 30 years ago that Gutenberg not having it feels like such a glaring omission in an editor, that everything from just user expectations to the bare fundamental accessibility of Gutenberg are undefined variables, and that's why I think people are uncomfortable. That's why tensions are high. It's gonna get worse before it gets better, I think, as the crunch towards getting Gutenberg ready happens. You'll see more people get more upset until it gets better.
A lot of people have been wondering and are somewhat anxious about the new default theme 2019. They've been looking for information. Well, Alan Cole, he's a WordPress theme Imagineer. Oh, man, Automatic, they have such cool titles. You just make them up. He published the first glimpses of the 2019 default theme on the Make WordPress core blog. This is slated to ship with 5.0. Now, Kjell Regstad, who does product and editorial design at Automatic, who will be Alan's design coach. And if you take a look at the theme, at this screenshot I'm looking at, it's a blog post layout. You have a big cover image. You've got your title. You've got the sort of post author meta up at the top. And you've got the drop cap and some of the things that Gutenberg has to offer. And it looks pretty good. Now, of course, this theme will have full compatibility with Gutenberg when it's released. It will also contain front-end and back-end editor styles, which I think is one of the key things all themes should have nowadays. But so many themes still don't have back-end editor styles, which drives me nuts.
Yeah, me too.
Now, 2019 is based on the underscores on Gutenberg starter theme. SAS is used to keep styles in sync between Gutenberg and the front-end experience, which Cole actually notes that it is not usual for a default theme, and that process is open for debate.
I don't think it should be debated. It's totally fine. It's better for everyone. Don't even worry about it. SAS will be fine.
And 2019 is on a fast-track development cycle. In fact, a release candidate is expected to be available at the end of this month. So you can keep tabs on this on the project's GitHub page, where development will happen on 2019. And then when it's ready to be merged into core, that page will be deprecated. So there's going to be half-hour meetings that take place every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the Core Theme Slack channel, if you want to be privy to that. And it's also worth noting that if 2019 is not ready in time for the planned November 19th release date of WordPress 5.0, it will be removed and released at a later date. It will not be a blocker to WordPress 5.0. You are not important enough to stop Gutenberg from reaching the masses. I'm sorry, 2019.
You know, at least 2019 visually is simple enough where it actually shouldn't be that difficult to get it to a really good starting or launching point. Like, it's stylistically not complex given the built-in Gutenberg block styling, handling that we'll have with it, and everything else that I don't see it being really that difficult. The only thing that would be a blocker for this theme, which will be hard to test, frankly, is things like custom post types and taxonomies, and having some level of baked-in support for the non-Gutenberg type stylings for things. Because if this is being built with underscores and the Gutenberg starter theme in mind, then hopefully the support for single regular old custom post types and taxonomies is acceptable enough for everyone else. And that this theme isn't so fancy that it breaks some of the theme compatibility type things that plugins like WooCommerce and EDD and BDPress need to do to put their own little template parts in place. So it's kind of up to everyone that is a plugin author to install this 2019 theme and beat it up a little bit and see how it works, and file bugs and issues and make it better. If it's going to land, needs everybody's help, just like Gutenberg does.
So I downloaded the 2019 theme from GitHub.
Oh, you're ahead of me. I haven't done that yet. What did you think?
Started on a fresh install of WordPress 4.9.8 with the Gutenberg plugin installed. And just like most other themes out there, it drove me nuts because the theme doesn't look like it does. Preview images out of the box. It's rough around the edges. And I use the Gutenberg demo post, an example post. I published that to see how it would look in that theme. Still very rough around the edges, to be expected. The back-end editor styles, the lack of them, it makes a huge difference, because in the back end, you see text on a caption that wraps around and things don't look very good, but you look on the front end, oh, it looks fine. So hopefully they can bring those two worlds closer together. But then you look at the preview image and you see that, well, they're using a drop cap. That's a Gutenberg block option, so you have to turn that on. That's not part of the style. And usually you could do that with CSS, but now this is a block option for paragraphs. You could turn drop cap on. I mean, if you look at the images, the preview images and the concept images for the theme, I think it looks pretty good. It's minimalist. You could probably use it for a simple business site, or it does pretty good with writing. But when you install it, do a fresh install, the theme looks nothing like what you see. There's a lot of rough edges. It's not good. So hopefully when you install, or when 2019 gets merged into Core and you flip it on, it looks closer to what you would expect out of the box.
I had a moment with Alan's post on the make.wordpress.org site, because when I saw the screenshots, in my imagination, the gray bar. Are you looking at the post right now, Jeff? I mean, the listeners probably can't see it, but if you're looking at the post, I imagined that gray bar not as the browser UI, but as part of the theme.
Oh, no,
like
I thought it was the browser. Yeah.
So I thought, like, oh, the hamburger menu, like that's where they'll hide like my menu widget under there. And then it wasn't until I looked at it a little bit more and was like, oh, this theme has no navigation. There's like no, where do widgets go in this theme? Looking at it.
So there is no sidebar. I forgot to mention this.
Yeah. No, you mentioned it at the beginning. There's no sidebar.
And they're going to add a footer area where you could place widgets.
Yeah, but no navigation at the top. There's nothing there. How do you get around? You don't. It's just a blog theme, I guess.
Somebody says, I really like the menu design, and somebody else says, where did you see the menu design? It says it's comma separated menu below name in the header.
Oh.
So there it is. So that's not
home about services.
There's the menu.
Oh goodness. Interesting. Huh.
Oh, they fooled us.
Yeah, I didn't.
Actually, the post meta is right below the title. So
yeah, that I saw. Interesting.
So there you have the navigation menu will be at the top, right there. There's the site title that's there, and then there's your social menu as well below that.
So then here, I didn't notice that. But here, and so here then is this. I think I even like it more now than I did before, because they very smartly used like human images for the circle avatar, like the site icon is a person, and
it looks like a gravatar.
It looks like a gravatar. It looks like a person, which was always the WordPress.com problem of, is your blog you, or is your blog a blog, and you have 10 of them. And so this really communicates that like your blog is you as a user, and is maybe this header will change with author archives. Who knows what'll happen there? But this really shifts the emphasis that like your blog is you. This is your face that belongs there. These are your links about you, about the services you provide, contacting you in a way that I don't know that a default WordPress theme has really communicated this strongly. So if this is the direction that they're going to go with 2019, I hadn't picked up on that before until you showed me where those links were, because I just assumed those were something else. But now that I see them, I can, if I see the direction they're going, I think I'm on board with it more than I was before. Huh.
Well, there you have it. A quick update on WooCommerce. WooCommerce 3.5 has been delayed. It will now be released on October 23rd. It's being delayed by 1 week in order for the team to do extra testing and more quality assurance on the release. They say that the testing regimen for WooCommerce releases. It's very thorough and covers a variety of servers and themes, and running the pre-release version of staging and production on live sites. They said that this will help ensure that the upcoming release is a smooth upgrade for all stores before the holiday season. And the new release date for WooCommerce 3.5.0 is, again, October 23rd. Oh, you know what? And that reminds me. Let's go back. Let's talk a little bit about this. WordPress 5.0 release date. So there's a lot of okay, when I say a lot of hubbub, there is a couple of people very vocal about the planned release of WordPress 5.0 in November 19th, which includes Gutenberg, a completely new editing experience for WordPress. And a lot of the hubbub was, well, that's right in the middle of the U.S. holiday season. And then you have one of the largest shopping days of the year, Black Friday. That's pretty much almost a week away from that release date. And there were many suggestions on, well, and I include myself in this, well, why can't we just release this? It's already been this long. Let's release it in January. WordPress 5.0, brand new editor, great way to kick off the year, and everybody can apply all their focus to getting this on their sites and getting them ready, and now we don't have to worry about holidays. And I get it. There are many people who said, it may be U.S. developed or U.S. centric type project, but the United States and their holidays is not the world. So days and holidays should not dictate the release of software. And then there is the argument of, well, developers and agencies have plenty of time to, they can manage their upgrade schedule so they don't have to update at that time. If they're not ready to, they can delay it till a week after or whenever. I don't know, but it's right now the planned release date for 5.0 is November 19th. If they can't make it by that date, I think the next date was in January. So we'll see how it goes. But I think it just would have been cool to kick off the new year with 5.0. It would have been, boom, here you go, and then everybody, would just move on from there. But here you go, right in November.
That's where the argument about there being kind of a very obvious unspoken agenda about this really being more about the unveiling at WordCamp US comes into play. Because
I suggested that, and Matt Mulloway commented on the article saying,
I know,
there's no way that this is not a moment. Releasing WordPress 5.0 at this time is not a stage moment during the WordCamp US State of the Word.
But it doesn't look that way. Even if you say it doesn't, right? Like people are going to go, yeah, but no, this still looks, because it's like, so it's not uncommon.
I mean, you and I have already said that it would be a bummer if you go to WordCamp State of the Word and 5.0 it hasn't been released yet. I think it'd be a bummer.
And it is not uncommon, as much as I hate to say it, in enterprise environments, and I have plenty of friends that are going through this issue now, that like companies want to get stuff in by the end of the year all the time. They got budgets and project needs to meet and everything. So it's not uncommon for this to be a stressful time of year for lots of people, not just people that work in retail, especially people that work in retail, but also anyone who's working on any big year-long projects. This is wrap-up time. It's not ideal. It is stressful, but that's our job, is to work those long hours, sometimes not always on our own terms, and get it done and move on from it. So I see both sides. I mean, it's not anything new for me, you know that, but I see both sides. It's not great timing, but there never is, and that's not a good argument either. There's always a reason not to ship. Unless you make a reason to ship, you'll just fill the void with reasons not to. So it's fine. Just when it's ready, it's ready. But you gotta invent urgency. You have to build that on purpose.
Well, I think they have that right now.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
urgency.
Exactly.
We're in October, and
and so kudos to WooCommerce for slowing down.
Next month we could have WordPress 5.0 out.
Well, and this month we'll have WooCommerce 3.5, but there's quite a number of template changes, deprecated functions. Oh no, they didn't deprecate anything. But
let me guess. The major release of EDD 3.0 will happen on Black Friday.
No, gosh, no. That seems like a recipe for a small team disaster, I think. No, but I will go on record, I think, to say that no, it's a bad idea. But WooCommerce has a REST API improvements, some email stuff. I mean, they've got things that need to be tested very thoroughly. EDD will too with 3.0, but it's good for them to delay this if they think they need more time. And if for some reason with Gutenberg and WordPress, if it happens that way, then I would imagine that just as joyful of a stage moment at WordCamp US would easily be Matt saying it wasn't ready and we delayed it, and everyone would applaud. The same as if it was ready and it had shipped, right? Like either way, making the call is going to be fine. And we'll see what happens from now until then. I'm imagining we will have no shortage of Gutenberg conversations from now until December.
Can you imagine the round of applause being on stage? Because we've seen hints of this in the past, but being on stage, and here is Gutenberg 5.0, the new editor that will power WordPress from now and into the future. And it's WCAG 2.0 compliant, has all this cool accessibility stuff. And you'd hear nothing but clapping.
So the thing that's
I'm going back to that. I'm not sure, but
I am reminded of. I mean, we've had Morton on the show, I think twice this year, maybe. But last year, Matthias did an amazing job of showing off Gutenberg and really made it look ready to go. And so,
like after every major accessibility feature he highlighted, there was a large round of applause.
Yeah, right. And so,
like with the color picker.
The color picker. That's exactly right. So, you wonder what happened.
Maybe someone would get on stage and just do an accessibility demo. Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be ideal, right? That would be the best case scenario. Is to bring someone on stage, like Amanda or someone else,
how accessible it is.
Show people how truly accessible that it is would be the best way to solve this problem, right? Like, just fine, feature freeze Gutenberg today, and then focus on accessibility from now until it ships in early December, late November, whenever, and then celebrate that with an accessibility demo at WordCamp US. That would be the right way to solve this problem. It's pretty late in the game to do that, but you're 100% correct. I agree with you. That would be the best case scenario.
So a quick note that WordPress's sort of market share usability, according to W3 Techs, has inched up to another whole number, 32%. Ooh. So it was 31, now it's 32.
There's no celebrating these numbers. 32, yay! I don't know. It's
yeah. Now it's gotten old.
Yeah,
we're just 18 away from the 50%. Now we just need a little more jetpack out there, and we'll get there.
That's not funny.
Okay,
that's not funny. That is not a fun joke to make.
Okay, why not?
I don't know.
Because it sounds like that it's just automatic jetpack that's going to get us there, and nobody else.
Right. That's right. I mean, there's that too. I agree with that too.
Well, Matt Medeiros would be in your camp for that, because I remember how off-putting that was for him, and he came out and said as much. Okay, so I said something that's not funny. My bad.
There are people, I'm sure, chuckling or groaning.
Of course, that's what most people do with my puns. Like, come on, really? That's just me. I make stupid jokes. They're not funny. So last thing on the agenda today is that if you use SeedProd, it is now a WP Beginner product. SeedProd has joined the Awesome Motive team, and SeedProd was one of the most popular coming soon in maintenance mode plugins for WordPress. It was currently installed on more than 800,000 WordPress sites. So basically what it allows you to do, or at least the free plugin allows you to create basic coming soon pages, maintenance mode pages, has a builder. You can create all these different templates. You can add a timer. You could add just anything you want on here. You can start getting emails, start building an email list before your site even launches. It's actually a pretty cool plugin, pretty cool product. I know that Sarah has used it a lot. Sarah Gooding. I think I've used it a few times in the past. So a little bit about this. If you read the background story that Syed Balkhi published on the WP Beginner blog, he says that he's known and met John Turner, the SeedProd founder, at numerous events. They've talked a lot about the synergies between what his product has and what WP Beginner is trying to do. And Syed actually says that when they announced the WP Beginner Accelerator Fund, John, that John Turner was one of the people who applied, and after several conversations, they decided that a full acquisition made more sense for SeedProd given the synergies between our brands and existing products. So they finalized the details, and next thing you know, SeedProd is officially an Automotive product. John will be coming on board. He will be joining the Automotive team, and he will continue to develop the SeedProd product. So I thought that was interesting, John, and I said this behind the scenes to a few people, and I'll get your take on this. But and this is a little bit of curiosity. I'd have to ask John Turner about this, but I wonder if he had acquisition thoughts in mind before he joined or tried to apply for the WP Beginner Accelerator Fund. If because of the information that John had to submit to the WP Beginner Accelerator Fund, if now Syed was like, oh, he is in need of funding. I've been interested in this product for a long time. Let's see if we can't just outright acquire it. And, you know, some of this stuff sounds big, I guess, negative on my part. But it's just like, you know, if we go back and look at the WP Beginner Accelerator Fund, in order to apply, you have to submit pretty much a blueprint, the
quite a bit,
the nuts and bolts of what you're doing with your business. And, you know, if Syed sees a business applying for the fund that he wouldn't mind having under his belt, he could just outright make an acquisition offer based on the information he has. So I don't know. I get it that investors need that kind of money or need that information, that detailed information about a business that they're going to invest in your company. I just know. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, for appearance's sake only, it does accidentally validate a lot of the opinions that it sounds like people had, that there was a different motive behind this than just generosity of helping folks bootstrap their idea and everything else. However, this for Syed and Automotive, it's a great funnel for them to identify areas that are opportunistic for them, or that are that go hand in hand with the direction that they're trying to take their own company. So it doesn't, if everyone is happy, then it doesn't matter, I guess, is maybe my take on it. And I imagine they must be happy if this is the decision that they all came to. Everyone must be happy with the end result. So that is the most important thing. It's not worth speculating on anybody's intentions, because I assume that they are as pure as they can be until there's any evidence to support otherwise.
Obviously, if John Turner didn't want this, he would have turned it down, just went for the funding. But they talked. And
Syed believes in it enough to go. So why worry about anything else? Let's just bring you in and let's just make it right. I think that's generous in a different way, and so. I think I'm super happy. I'm pumped for everybody. It's.
I will say that we have yet to see, or they have yet to announce the winners I should say they have yet to announce which companies they have selected to receive or who would be part of the accelerator fund. So I'm kind of hoping that that's announced before we see another acquisition where it was based on a company that I would hate to see like an announcement like this again before we see who's announced the accelerator fund, because I think that would just further fan the flames of having bad assumptions of intentions.
Yeah,
but
I think
whatever.
Accelerators, they're all going to use a different approach. And so this is kind of the most accelerant that you can provide a business, is just bring them in.
Yeah.
rather than worry about funding them externally and supporting them a little bit, is just to go all in on them. And so who knows? It might not be so bad. Maybe it's if they acquire the next 4, maybe that's the best thing for some of these applicants. You don't really know. And a lot of the times, like we've said on the show before, the details of these kind of deals are nobody's business. And so if everyone's happy, then I will be happy for all of them.
Maybe you should apply for the accelerator fund with BB Press.
Oh, it hurts when you say things like that. But you're not wrong. No, I understand.
Okay. 2 zingers in, at least during this show.
Man, it's good. I hope all of our listeners can hear me cringe over the airwaves.
I can actually see you.
Oh boy.
Let's see.
It wouldn't surprise me if my hiatus from WordCamp US is just because I haven't shipped BB Press 2.6 yet. That once I ship, then Matt's going to be like, "Oh, yeah, I'd love to have you at WordCamp US to give a talk about a 3-year development cycle." Yes, that's what it is. And
you'll be at the State of the Word next year in St. Louis demonstrating Gutenberg in BB Press.
Wouldn't that be something? I mean, that would be pretty cool to figure that out.
We are reimagining conversations with blocks.
It would be pretty cool. I think about that on the pretty regularly.
I know you do.
I do. It's anything is possible, Jeff. Anything is possible.
You could accomplish anything if you put your mind to it.
And money doesn't hurt, but also your mind. Your mind on your money. Your money on your mind.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That was good. So that's going to wrap it up for the show. I don't have anything else really to really go in depth on to talk about. Is there anything, any tidbits, anything you want to bring up? Something that doesn't require an hour-long conversation?
Not really, man. I mean, we also missed the small talk portion of the show where we talk about the weather and life and everything. How are you doing in general? Everything okay?
Everything's fine. I smell. Okay. We've got pot roast in the crack pot right now, and I smell it, and it's driving me nuts.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Oh, then I should let you go. Then the show's over. As far as I'm concerned.
It's not done. I got to smell it cook all day in a crack pot. I mean, that's the benefits of a crack pot. You smell it cooking all day, but you can't eat it for like 8 hours.
That is right. Yeah,
fact,
but I don't.
How's that house?
I don't think I've got anything. No, we've got. It's been windy here, and so
it's been windy here too.
You kind of get all the weather that we have, and so it has been windy enough where I wouldn't want to be 2 stories up putting roof panels on. So I don't blame them for not wanting to be up there either. So everyone's staying busy, and nothing has gone massively wrong yet. We're still trying to figure out how we're going to do some things ourselves, but it's okay. Carrie's doing a lot of the research into things because she's better at that kind of thing than I am, and so everything is going okay. Maybe ask Carrie; she'll tell you something different. But I think so far everything is going okay.
So next week we're going to have Topher DeRojan from Big
I'm excited to talk to you.
He's going to give us
Topher on the show for a while. That'll
find out what's going on with Hero Press, what's going on in his neck of the woods, and he'll give us sort of the inside scoop on Big Commerce, which really to me has been sort of a new entrant. I haven't really heard or seen anything about Big Commerce until Topher started tweeting about it, and then he got a job there, and now everything's Big Commerce. So we're going to learn about it next Wednesday. And then we'll see what happens after that. You can find show notes for this episode and all other episodes on wptavern.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at Jeffro, JEFFR0. And John?
Twitter and GitHub at JJJ and JJJ.blog. Cool, man.
Till next Wednesday afternoon. Stay safe, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you again next Wednesday. Say bye, John.
Bye, John.